So a couple of months ago, I made a video on my memories of going to work with my dad and hanging out in the Boyle Heights and East LA area. And I kept the video somewhat short. It was still way too long, but I did cut some stuff out and hold back on some of my memories because I thought that a lot of you just wouldn't have interest. But it turns out that a lot of you liked it and you did have interest and you wanted more. So today we're doing part 2. And right now we're heading out to the Boyle Heights and East LA area to talk about more of my memories. So let's go see what we can find. Now, like I said before, my dad always started his morning by getting a cup of coffee and a newspaper. And if I was with him, he would almost always get that coffee from a donut shop. And I would get like 2 or 3 donuts and a chocolate milk or a hot chocolate. And then a couple of hours later, I would complain about how I felt sick. Now, honestly, as an adult, if I eat 2 or 3 donuts, that alone makes me feel sick. The thought of eating that with hot chocolate or chocolate milk, I can't believe I used to do that. Sometimes we would stop at this Winchell's Donuts on Reseda and Ventura Boulevard. Can't believe it's still here. And sometimes we would stop at this little mom and pop donut shop, Tasty's Donuts on Burbank and Reseda, still going strong. But a donut shop that I remember stopping at a lot was this one right over here. Well, it's not here anymore, but it used to be right here at Burbank and Balboa. I think it was a Donut Inn, if I remember correctly, and then it became Amber's Fried Chicken and Donuts, and then I don't know what it is now. It's not a donut shop anymore. But the thing that stands out to me about this one is I remember going in there with my dad, and the guy would already have a large cup of coffee sitting on the counter waiting for him, and then I would pick out my donuts, and I remember getting out to the car and asking my dad, how did he know that you wanted a large coffee? And my dad would just give me the side eye and the little grin. Now, of course, he knew because my dad stopped in there so often to get a cup of coffee, but I just thought that was really cool. And if you're in customer service, in my opinion, that's how you do it. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, for whatever reason, I've got a lot of memories that took place right here on this section of Freeway. Everything from passing by Universal Studios and the old movie car shop to listening to Rick Dees. But another memory that I have that I didn't mention last time because it's really stupid, and it seems like I'm always gonna have this memory every time I pass by here, I think about it. And I was really young. I was probably like 6 or 7, but I remember passing by this building and asking my dad, is that Dodger Stadium? And my dad just looked at me like I was an idiot, and with good reason. I don't know. We had gone to a lot of Dodger games, and something about the look of that building, the way that it sticks out at the top, to me, it just looked like a stadium. Now, the real mistake that I made was telling my son that story, because now every time that we pass by there, he asks me, hey Dad, isn't that Dodger Stadium? Now, telling that stupid story made me want to come over here to Dodger Stadium and talk about some of the memories that I had of coming to Dodger games with my mom and dad and my brother and sometimes my uncles, and just a lot of the good times that we had at Dodger Stadium. But I had no idea that it was going to be a complete madhouse over here. Little did I know that not only was there a game going on, but there were so many people lined up to get into that game, and traffic is backed up on all sides of the stadium for blocks and blocks. I have never seen so many people waiting to get into Dodger Stadium, but I figured there had to be some kind of huge event going on here at Dodger Stadium. It couldn't just be a normal game. And so I looked it up right now, and it turns out that people are lined up to try and get an Ohtani MVP bobblehead. That's it. They're trying to get, I mean, it's a special bobblehead, I get it. But yeah, the game doesn't start until 5:30. It's 1 o'clock right now on a Wednesday afternoon, and that's how many people are lined up hoping to be one of the lucky ones to get one of those bobbleheads, because they are limited. Now, I guess I'll just talk about this here. I'm a few blocks away from the stadium. Even though my dad was a lifelong diehard Angels fan, he would always get Dodger tickets from work because the salesmen there were season ticket holders. You know, they would give those to the clients, and then they would always have leftover tickets and they would give them to my dad. A lot of good memories. The one that really stands out to me was one night after we got out of the game. It was kind of late, like maybe 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and we were driving through these neighborhoods right outside of Dodger Stadium, and we were in my dad's 66 Impala Super Sport, and me and my brother were in the back seat. My mom and dad were up front, and my dad had KRLA on the radio, which for those of you that don't know, KRLA was the oldies station for LA at that time. And so we're cruising through these neighborhoods and the song Lowrider comes on, and my dad cranks it up as loud as it will go, and he gets as low as he can in his seat. And for some reason, my brother and I got a real kick out of this. My mom was really upset by this, and she's punching my dad in the shoulder and she's talking through her teeth saying, "Will you stop it?" And my brother and I just loved it, and my dad just had a big smile on his face. And I don't know, it's a silly memory, but it's one of those ones that's just stuck with me all of these years. Now, we didn't only get donuts. Every once in a while, if I was really lucky, we would stop here at the Original Tommy's on the corner of Rampart and Beverly Boulevard. Now, if you're not from Los Angeles, let me tell you, Original Tommy's is a staple of LA. And if you want to try it, be careful because there's lots of knockoffs, but the way that you can tell the difference is by the spelling. Now, the knockoffs are good too, just not as good as the Original Tommy's. And so like I said, every once in a while, this was like a special treat. We would stop here at Tommy's and we would get a breakfast sandwich. So what's an Original Tommy's breakfast sandwich? Well, it's basically the same as their chili burger, but they replace the hamburger patty with a sausage patty, and then they add an egg. So you've got a hamburger bun, a sausage patty, an egg, chili, cheese, onions, tomato, I think there's mustard. I don't know, it's been a while since I've had one, but I think that's all the ingredients, and it is delicious. If you're a fan of such a thing, I highly recommend trying one. I mean, you got to try just the regular chili burger and the chili cheese fries as well, but I also recommend the breakfast sandwich. So there you can see that's the breakfast sandwich, and it looks like they now have a breakfast burrito, which I don't remember them having before, but it looks absolutely amazing. Now, if you want to try the Original Tommy's, they do have multiple locations, and again, if you want to avoid the knockoffs, just pay attention to the spelling. But the Original Tommy's does have multiple locations, but this one on the corner of Rampart and Beverly Boulevard is the very first one. It's been here since 1946. Now, as I mentioned, sometimes my dad would get off the freeway and he would cut through Hollywood or downtown Los Angeles, and I think a lot of the reason why he did that was to give me something to look at. And every once in a while, he would go out of his way to pass by something a little extra special. And one building that I remember him passing by on multiple occasions is this one right across the street, the Coca-Cola Bottling Company. Now, this building opened up in 1939. And as you can see, this building's a little unique because it looks like a giant ship. And so that's why he thought I would enjoy driving by this building, and he was absolutely right. I thought it was the coolest thing. Even though in the valley we had a building that looked like the front of a giant Cadillac, we had one that looked like a barrel. I mean, we had buildings that looked like things, but I wasn't paying attention to those. Now, this building might look familiar to you if you're an old school skater, or if you watched the video that I did on the Bones Brigade video show, because Lance Mountain skates past this building, and he does a little something right there on that giant Coca-Cola bottle. All right, so I had to come back down to my dad's work because, as I mentioned, most of the memories that I have of coming down here actually took place inside of this building. One memory that I didn't share last time, one of the many times that we got donuts on the way to his work, and this had to be one of the times that we got donuts somewhere right here in this area. I got a hot chocolate, and I told my dad that I was gonna drink it with a straw. I think it was one of those little stir sticks that was hollow and it could be used as a straw. And my dad was like, "You don't want to drink hot chocolate with a straw." I'm like, "Dad, I want to drink it with a straw." "You don't want to drink hot chocolate with a straw." "I want to drink my hot chocolate." And he's like, "You know what? Do whatever you want." And so we got here to his work and we parked right in front like we always did. And I got out of the truck. And as my dad was unlocking the gates, I took my first sip of my hot chocolate and took all of the taste buds off of my tongue and removed the first 7 layers of skin off of the roof of my mouth. And I let my dad know how much it hurt. And he was just kind of like, I hope you enjoyed drinking your hot chocolate with a straw. And now that I'm 45 and I have a child of my own, I now understand exactly how my dad felt. And one day my son will too. This building right next door to my dad's work, I have no idea what this is now, but when I was a kid, this was a brass company. I don't know, they made little figures and stuff out of brass. I don't really know what the purpose of these things were, but they made stuff out of brass, and my dad knew some of the people that worked here. He would come over and talk to them, and they would give him items made out of brass, and we had these things all around our house. I know we had a large brass anvil. We had a huge brass pacifier, a ball and jacks, just like really weird stuff. Instead of having fine art in our house, we had random things made of brass. Now, out of all of those brass items that we had, I only still have one, and it was these little brass frogs. And what's really weird about these is when you flip them over, they have male and female human genitalia. I don't know why, but they do. And I'm gonna show this to you now. So if you don't wanna see this, or if you've got kids watching, this would be a good time to look away. I mean, I guess it's okay to show this, right? It's like going to an art museum and seeing a painting of a naked person. But yeah, really weird. I don't know why we had this or why these were even made, but we did, and they were made right here inside of this building. So I just came around here to the backside of my dad's work and thinking about that week that I came to work with him, and being in the backyard while he was working and hearing bells coming down the street. And I peeked outside of the gate and I looked down the sidewalk and I saw the ice cream man pushing the cart down the sidewalk. And I ran over to my dad and was like, Dad, can I get an ice cream, please? And he's like, all right. So we walked out here and we stopped the ice cream man, and I got a watermelon bar. And this was the first time that I had ever had a Mexican fruit bar, and it was so delicious. I couldn't believe it even had watermelon seeds in it. It was like having a real piece of watermelon, but so sweet and so juicy. It was so good. And then my dad told me that those weren't watermelon seeds, they were cockroaches. And that slowed me down for a minute. Come to think of it, he told me the same thing about pecan pie. So people ask me all the time when my love for filming locations began, and honestly, I don't know. It's been part of me for so long, I really don't remember where it started. But I can tell you that my earliest memories of going to a filming location was with my dad. He watched some of my movies with me and he noticed that they were filmed in this area, and he recognized some of the locations and he surprised me by taking me to see them. Now, the first location that I remember him taking me to, it's right over here. And like I said, he surprised me. He didn't say anything. We left his work on a Sunday morning and I thought we were going home. And then we were driving through this neighborhood and he all of a sudden turned down this street. He stopped the car, and again, he didn't say anything. He just had that smirk on his face, and I couldn't believe my eyes when in front of me, I saw Miracles, the teen center from Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. And what was really cool was at the time it was still painted those bright colors like it was in the movie. Now, the next time I remember him bringing me to a filming location would have been a couple years later, and it was after we watched the movie Colors. And same thing, we left his work on a Sunday morning and I thought we were driving home, and instead of getting on the freeway, he was driving down Cesar Chavez, and we came right over here to Fickett Street, and he turned the corner and he showed me the building with the large Jesus mural on it, and I instantly recognized it as the spot where Pac-Man puts the kid up against the wall and spray paints his face. That building used to be located right here. The building was torn down, and now, for whatever reason, people just use this as like a market. They hang all their clothes on the gate. I also remember my dad bringing me by Hollenbeck Park to show me that this was the park from the beginning of Born in East LA. Now, of course, I've come back to this park many times as an adult for Born in East LA, Breakin' 2, and Blood In, Blood Out. Now, another fond memory that I have of an eating establishment in this area is of this building right across the street, El Tepeyac. My dad had talked to me about this place many times, talking about how they had a burrito that was the size of a pillow. And I didn't believe him, but then one day he got me one and it was pretty close. It was a huge burrito that was covered in sauce and melted cheese, and it was so good. And if you're from this area or just from Los Angeles, then the odds are you're familiar with El Tepeyac. Okay, so I don't know how I didn't know that this building had been torn down until now. In my last video, I talked about a foul odor that I experienced when coming to work with my dad that was coming from the Bandini manure plant. But that's not the only bad smell that I experienced while coming down here. We just didn't come to this side of town quite as much. I mean, Bandini's just a couple of miles from here, but I guess the bad smell coming from Bandini overpowered the bad smell that was coming from this building. On the corner of Vernon and Soto, this used to be the Farmer John Slaughterhouse, and this building is famous for the murals that it had all over it. It had murals of pigs having a good time, which is kind of weird because inside of this building, the pigs were being killed and ripped apart, so a little twisted. The building is also somewhat famous for being featured in the movie Carrie. In the original version of Carrie, this is where they came to get the blood that they dumped on her. So a lot of you had seen this building in the movie Carrie. Now, like I said, I had no idea that this building had been torn down or that the factory had shut down. I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like I just drove by this building within the last year and it was still here. And I guess that's possible because there are still construction crews in there, so I think they might have just torn it down. So I looked it up and it turns out that they shut their doors in 2023 because it had become too expensive to operate in California and they were going to move the factory somewhere else. And what's crazy about that is Farmer John had been at this location for almost a century. And what's really sad is a lot of the people that worked at this factory were older people that had worked here for 20, 30, 40 years, and they had just planned to work here their entire life. Like, this is where they came every day, and this is all they knew, and now they're out of a job. I believe I read that there were more than 2,000 people employed at the Farmer John Slaughterhouse, and now all of those people are trying to figure out what to do because they've worked here for so long. It's kind of hard when you're older to just go out and get a new job. So hate it or love it, you got to admit that the Farmer John Slaughterhouse was a big part of Los Angeles, and you might not have liked it maybe because of animal rights or you just didn't like the odor, but you still got to admit that it being torn down has had a big impact on LA. And with that, we're going to end this video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.